Alright. Is our generation obsessed with speed, with instinctive reaction? I've been playing chess and lichess for a while, and I've noticed that players just play so goddamn fast. The slow ones usually lose with 3 minutes, 4 minutes left. What is this? A good old fast chess game used to be an hour battle. Are these people thinking their way through, or are they just feeling when they move pieces like in the game Go? I've realized the same pattern in real life. People don't take more than 5 seconds to answer you. If you take your time to answer hard questions, there is this social anxiety body language that people display around you. This makes no sense. People rather be fast and wrong than slow and right. I have some theories to explain this. Modern generations are used to holding the same thought for more than a few seconds. But why? I would say it has to do with TV and music. Music induces instinctive responses. I bet TV rapes your brain with the amount of incomplete information that should expose you. The amount of cuts in Toy Story, for example, is around 1,500 presented to you at a set speed without your input. This information is also not repeated. It is mostly novelty, one-time use only, unless it is important news or ads. Most, if not all, of the fiction you are exposed to is unrealistic and inconsistent. And I bet it induces you to be unrealistic and inconsistent about yourself. And most characters are instinctive as well. They're not even used with the idea of writing long reviews on TV channels and other media that is given to you. You actually don't think they are bad enough. The paradox is also that our reaction time is lower than older generations, and I think that this is because we have learned to be these passive dead TV watchers. Older generations would actually react to elements on screen they had no previous exposure to films. So we are fast when we should be slow, and we're slow when we should be fast because we are also desensitized. One of the people commented on this, and he said, I only got 30% of the way into what you wrote before the anxiety kicked in, and I respond with this post. Yeah, man, I feel you. Being raised on Nintendo and computer makes me act up in a variety of ways, such as attention problems and wanting to react fast. Then I continue my post because the first one hit the character limits, the character's limit, and the next post is, okay, could you imagine the real depth of social relations when people couldn't just go away to their rooms to watch TV or play with the internet all day? You would come from work and there was nothing else to do at home besides a hard hobby or talking to other humans. But people also think in terms of motion pictures instead of situations with their 5 senses. I bet they are losing the ability to read because instead of reading books and using their imagination abstraction, they are watching the correspondent movies with specific fake scenarios presented to them. I would like also to compare the radio generation with the TV generation. Radio was filled with good, deep, endless talks, not just music like today. Even the news required you to process exclusively verbal information. Radio didn't have cuts like TV. If the music was playing, it would usually play to the end. If someone was talking, they wouldn't be interrupted 1,500 times. Because sentences need to fall in order. I bet the radio would teach people to listen to talk their complex minds, while TV just beats you down to a speechless but assertive zombie. The way I see to get something good out of TV is literally do what I'm doing here. Develop some meta thinking about it. It would be equivalent of writing this post, thinking it over, looking for flaws, adding examples and thoughts, etc. It would be the equivalent of tracking time while watching and remembering what the hell we just saw all day. This kid I know spends his whole day watching movies, playing with the internet, and when I ask him what he saw all day, he answers quickly. He doesn't know. And then he moves on. He doesn't spend another second trying to remember it and feeling bad about it. At the same time, he has a high self-esteem, thinks he's a genius, good-looking, strong, etc., and makes sure that people know about his self-esteem as well. Apology. How you, or Athenians, have been affected by my accusers, I cannot tell, but I know that they almost made me forget who I was. So persuasively did they speak, and yet they have hardly uttered a word of truth. But of the many falsehoods told by them, there was one which quite amazed me. I mean, when they said that you should be upon your guard, and not allow yourselves to be deceived by the force of my eloquence. To say this, when they were certain to be
detected as soon as I opened my lips and proved myself to be anything but a great speaker, did indeed appear to me most shameless, unless by the force of eloquence they mean the force of truth, for such is their meaning. I admit that I am eloquent, but in how different a way from theirs? Well, as I was saying, they have scarcely spoken the truth at all, but from me you shall hear the whole truth, not however delivered after their manner in a set oration duly ornamented with words and phrases. No, by heaven, but I shall use the words and arguments which occur to me every moment, for I am confident in justice of my cause. Or I am certain that I am right in taking this course. At my time of life I ought not to be appearing before you, O men of Athens, in the character of a juvenile orator. Let no one expect it of me, and I must beg of you to grant me a favor. If I defend myself in my accustomed manner, and you hear me using the words which I have been in the habit of using in the agora, at the tables of the money changers, or anywhere else, I would ask you not to be surprised, and not to interrupt me on this account, for I am more than 70 years of age, and appearing now for the first time in a court of law. I am quite a stranger to the language of the place, and therefore I would have you regard me as if I were really a stranger, whom you would excuse if he spoke in his native language, and after the fashion of his country. Am I making an unfair request of you? Never mind the manner, which may or may not be good, but think only of the truth of my words, and give heed to that. Let the speaker speak truly, and the judge decide justly. And first I have to reply to the older charges and to my first accusers, and then I will go on to the latter ones. To the later ones, sorry. For although I have had many accusers who have accused me falsely to you during many years, and I am more afraid of them than of Anytus and his associates, who are dangerous too in their own way, but far more dangerous are the others who began when you were children, and took possession of your minds with their falsehoods, telling of one Socrates, a wise man, who speculated about the heaven above, and searched into the earth beneath, and made the worse appear the better course. The disseminators of this tale are the accusers whom I dread. For their hearers I have to fancy that such inquirers do not believe in the existence of the gods, and they are many, and their charges against me are of ancient date, and they were made by them in the days when you were more impressible than you are now, in childhood, or it may have been your youth, and the cause when heard went by default, for there was none to answer. And hardest of all, I do not know and cannot tell the names of my accusers, unless in the chance of case of a comic poet, who from envy and malice have persuaded you, some of them having first convinced themselves. All this class of men are most difficult to deal with. I cannot have them up here, and cross-examine them, and therefore I must simply fight with shadows in my own defense, and argue when there is no one who answers. I will ask you then to assume with me, as I was saying, that my opponents are of two kinds. One recent, the other ancient, and I hope that you will see the propriety of my answering the latter first, for these accusations you heard long before the others, and much oftener. Well, then I must make my defense, and endeavor to clear away in a short time a slander which has lasted a long time. May I succeed, if to succeed be for my good and yours, or likely to avail me in my cause. The task is not an easy one, I quite understand the nature of it, and so leaving there that record, in obedience to the law, I will now make my defense. I will begin at the beginning, and ask what is the accusation which has given rise to the slander of me, and in fact has encouraged Meletus to prove this charge against me. Well, that what do the slanderers say? They shall be my persecutors, and I will sum up their words in an affidavit. Socrates is an evildoer, and a curious person who searches into things under the earth and in heaven, and he makes the worse appear the better cause, and he teaches the aforesaid doctrines the others. Such is the nature of the accusation. It is just what you have yourselves seen in the comedy of Aristophanes, Clouds. This is a reference to Clouds, who has introduced a man whom he calls Socrates, going about and saying that he walks in there and talking a deal of nonsense concerning matters of which I do not pretend to know either much or little. Not that I mean to speak disparagingly of anyone who is a student of natural philosophy. I should be very sorry if Meletus could bring so grave a charge against me. But the simple truth is, O Athenians, that I have nothing to do with physical speculations. Very many of those here present are witnesses of the truth of this, and to them I appeal. Speak then, you who have heard me, and tell your neighbors whether any of you have ever known me hold forth in few words or in many upon such matters. You hear their answer, and from what they say of this part of the charge you will be able to judge of the truth of the rest. As little foundation is there for the report that I am a teacher, and take money this accusation has no more truth in it than the other. Although if a man were really able to instruct mankind to receive money for giving instructions would, in my opinion, be an honor to him. There is gorges of Leontium, and prodigals of sales, and hippias of Alice, who go the round of the cities and are able to persuade the young men to leave their own citizens by whom they might be taught for nothing, and come to them, who they not only pay, but are thankful if they may be allowed to pay them. There is at this time a Parian philosopher residing in Athens, of whom I have heard, and I came to hear of him in this way. I came across a man who had spent a world of money on the sophist, Callias, the son of Hipponicus. And knowing that he had sons, I asked Callias, I said, if your 2 sons were foals or calves, there would be no difficulty in finding someone to put over them. We should hire a trainer of horses, or a farmer probably, who would improve and perfect them in their own proper virtue and excellence. But as they are human beings, whom are you thinking of placing over them? Is there anyone who understands human and political virtue? You must have thought about the matter. Well, you have sons, is there anyone? There is, he said. Who is he? Said I, and of what country, and what does he charge? Venus the Parian, he replied, he is the man, and his charge is 5 minae. Happy is Venus, I said to myself, if he really has this wisdom, and teaches at such a moderate charge. Had I the same, I should have been very proud and conceited. But the truth is that I have no knowledge of the kind. I dare say, Athenians, that someone among you will reply, yes, Socrates, but what is the origin of these accusations which are brought against you? There must have been something strange which you have been doing. All these rumors and this talk about you would never have arisen if you had been like other men. Tell us, then, what is the cause of them, for we should be sorry to judge hastily of you. Now I regard this as a fair challenge, and I will endeavor to explain to you the reason why I am called wise and have such an evil fame. Please to attend them, and although some of you may think that I am joking, I declare that I will tell you the entire truth. Men of Athens, this reputation of mine has come of a certain sort of wisdom which I possess. If you ask me what kind of wisdom, I reply, wisdom such as might, perhaps, be attained by man. For to that extent I am inclined to believe that I am wise, whereas the persons of whom I was speaking have a superhuman wisdom which I may fail to describe, because I have it not myself. And he who says that I have speaks falsely, and is taking away my character. And here, O men of Athens, I must beg you not to interrupt me, even if I mean to say something extravagant. For the word which I will speak is not mine. I will refer you to a witness who is worthy of credit. The witness shall be the god of Delphi. He will tell you about my wisdom, if I have any, and of what sort it is. You must have known Chaerephon. He was early a friend of mine, and also a friend of yours, for he shared in the recent exile of the people in return with you. Well, Chaerephon, as you know, was very impetuous in all his doings, and he went to Delphi and boldly asked the oracle to tell him whether, as I was saying, I must beg you not to interrupt. He asked the oracle to tell him whether anyone was wiser than I was. And the Pythian prophetess answered that there was no man wiser. Chaerephon is dead himself, but his brother, who is in court, will confirm the truth of what I am saying. Why do I mention this? Because I am going to explain to you why I have such an evil name. When I heard the answer, I said to myself, what can be the meaning of this, and what is the interpretation of his riddle. For I know that I have no wisdom, small or great. What then can he mean when he says that I am the wisest of men, and yet he is a god and cannot lie? That would be against his nature. After long consideration, I thought of a method of trying the question. I reflect that if I could only find a man wiser than myself, then I might go to the god with a refutation in my hand. I should say to him, here is a man who is wiser than I am, but you said that I was the wisest. Accordingly, I went to one who had the reputation of wisdom and observed him. His name I need not mention. He was a politician whom I selected for examination, and the result was as follows. When I began to talk with him, I could not help thinking that he was not really wise, although he was thought wise by many, and still wiser by himself. Thereupon, I tried to explain to him that he thought himself wise, but was not really wise, and the consequence was that he hated me, and his enmity was shared by several who were present and heard me.
Next topic is about Buddhism. It's basically a discussion between me and a mean discussion between me and a couple of Buddhists on the board of history in 4chan. The day is Saturday, 16th of July, 2016. Thread starts like this. Buddhism and the indeterminate questions, origin of the cosmos, of karma, etc. I know the Buddha said that those aspiring to achieve paranirvana should not concern themselves with their asanteya, the four imponderables, and the 10 indeterminate questions, since these were a hindrance to the attainment of liberation. However, within the framework of Buddhist cosmology, the Buddha himself find the answer to these questions once he became enlightened. I think I'll read all the replies so that you get what I'm dealing with. Yes, it's like doing any psychedelic drug for the first time. You can ponder about how it will be, but all that pondering is wrong and a waste of time, which will be realized after taking the drug. The imponderables are the same. Attain Nibbana and you see what you see. Any useless conjecture until then is harmful to your practice. That's fools. Yes, it wasn't that Buddha didn't know, but that the answers were incommunicable. Next suppose. So does the Buddha become omniscient when he attains Buddhahood? To this there are two replies. One is pretty much, and the other is Buddha possessed inherent omniscience, meaning he could know anything he put his mind to, but he did not know everything that there was to know simultaneously. He made some typo, I guess. He said he did not knowing. He said that he did not know. Okay. Alright, next post. What's nice at Buddha is that he never threatened people to believe him in this way. Believe me or you will go to hell. And then there's two replies to this post. First one is here we go again. ... And the next one is except he literally did. Right. Next post. Sorry, there are a couple more replies. There is one reply to here we go again. And it goes like, upsets you to hear that necessary parts of your belief system pointed out, huh? And there's a reply to this. Well, no, I'm an agnostic atheist. I just wanted a nice, relaxing thread without any of the usual shit-lifting, shit-flinging. Yes, shit-flinging. Why couldn't the... Then there's this reply to this post, why couldn't you have just agreed with him that the Buddha didn't threaten people then? It takes two and many more to tango if you want a reasonable threat, and there are no more replies. Right. Except he literally did. There are two replies to this one. One they say T, Christ cook, and the next is this, you are in hell, fool. Buddha offers escape. Okay. The next post to the thread is you see him, and then there is a all right. The post Kreisky has two replies actually, but the first reply is actually mentioning the post is the average Babundist Westerner. They don't study the Pali canon or the commentaries while striving to reach nirvana. They use Buddhism as a way to criticize Christianity, basically Fedora's 2.0. And the reply to this is, I'm not a Buddhist, but it's extremely annoying when a thread about academic discussion Buddhism gets derailed because as paying Christ cooks come on and start posting that idiotic drivel. The other reply to the T Christ Cook post is, my way is literally the own way to the cessation suffering T Gautama. If you don't follow my way, you will literally have to spend 1,000,000,000 years in a hell realm after you die before you can have a go at it again here in the human realm. Yeah, real lad, that's totally different. And there is two replies to this. Laugh. Yeah, nah, know what you're talking about first before you shit talk. And the next one is Shakyamuni literally said that one had to find their own path to enlightenment, and that while wise people could be inspired and guided by people such as the Buddha or Arahants, enlightenment had to be achieved by the individual with persistent discipline and introspection. Nobody, not even the Buddha, could lead an individual to paranirvana, such that was something the individual had to reach on his own. Regarding your statement about the hell realms, you need it. Pretty sure you don't know anything about Buddhism. There is no penalty for not accepting Buddha. One could just as well be reborn in the human world or the heaven realms, since this depends on the person's actions, not on what beliefs one accepts to decides not to accept. One accepts to decides not to accept. This guy's not writing so well. Alright, there is... Okay, so these two boats have, each one have, the first one has two replies and the second has one reply. The reply to the first one was, laughs, yeah, now I know what you're talking about first before you shit talk. First reply to this one is, sick counter-argument bro, I bet you're a secularist shitter who gets his info on Buddhism from Alan Watts. To which there is another reply. Oh man, this is getting quite complex. Let me see if I can dodge this. I should probably just read in the same order that it appears. Right. So, alright, so let's see. I'll just say the posts in the same order that I see them appearing in this thread. So from top to bottom, the next post after the yeah, real life, that's totally different. This post was the one that said, also, my way is literally the only way to the cessation of suffering in Chigotan. If you don't follow my way, you will literally have to spend 1,000,000,000 years in a hell realm until you die before you can have a go at it again here in the human realm. Yeah, real life, that's totally different. Next post. Buddhism is a fake religion. This one is mine. Denies God, no repentance, whilst Christ came for the sword, not peace, Buddha came for nirvana, aka death. No theology, no logic, literally stagnated the country while Christianity built Europa, or Europa. Alright. Laughs, yeah, now I know what you're talking about first, before you shit talk. Nirvana is dead. Well, you're just a Western cook. Sick counter-argument bro, I bet you're a secularist shitter who gets his info on Buddhism from Alan Watts. Low Western cucks, is that your argument child? Life is suffering? Alright, this one is mine too. Low Western cucks, is that your argument child? Life is suffering? Is the core Buddhism? Oh wait, you deny that life is suffering? No, then nirvana is impossible for the living, before you don't like logic because you're Buddhist. So, my post has like two replies. First one is, what the symbol of the Dharma is a will, because if you accept its axioms, the mind naturally turns to its conclusions. And the second one is, as in suffering, dissatisfaction, unease, worry, etc., is an unavoidable part of life. And talk about logic, if you're if you're contesting, I mean, it must meant contesting. If you're contesting such an obvious point, all right. So first one, I replied. Yeah. First one was, what the symbol of the Dharma is a will, because if you accept its actions, the mind naturally turns to its conclusions. I said, Nibbana is described to be finally attained at death, and when no more reincarnations happen. Meditation is an emulation of death. If you stop meditating about the sati now, Buddhists say it will be a straight road to enlightenment, taking only a few lifetimes. According to the Buddhist apes, the final realization that indicates your enlightenment is life is suffering, which will lead you to stop the cycle of life and death, to be never born again. Correct me if I'm wrong. No, I said correct me where I'm wrong. That's what I said. Right. Then I made a reply to the thread. Another reply to the thread that I made was, Buddhism is a fake religion pushed by crazy people that want to destroy Christianity in the West. A Buddhist describes Christianity with his Buddhist mindset, and the response of the people is that this Buddhist is enlightened, deep, is true and sincere. If a Christian describes Buddhism with his Christian mindset, the Christian is called retarded, ignorant, evil, Nazi, and wrong. So the other reply to that post of mine was, as in suffering, dissatisfaction, needs, worry, etc., is an unavoidable part of life, and talk about logic if you're contesting such an obvious point. My reply was, I don't contest at all. Just don't like someone who brings Nibbana, aka death. I completely accept that life is suffering. I completely agree that simple pleasure is only the cessation of pain, and desires are painful. Why did you think I was contesting this? I just don't think that a godlike character should bring peace instead of a sword. So, let's see what's next after this. So, when I said the word meditation, I said meditation is an emulation of death. And someone replied to that. Two people actually replied to that. The first one said, you're looking at life and death duality, which Buddhists do not do. At the highest level, there is no clear distinction between nirvana and samsara. There are many types of meditation, and some of them are quite active, using imagery and the like. So you're wrong on both those points. Meditation is an emulation. The next post says, meditation is an emulation of the unconditioned state that precedes and is the ground of samsaric existence. Nirvana isn't the death of consciousness, but the expanding your consciousness, transcending what is conditioned and impermanent. Which is why the enlightened consciousness is compared to an ocean in the sky that non-judgmentally accepts anything, no matter how impure, that is put into it. But you would know this if you weren't talking out of your ass. That's what he said. So the first one I replied to, Anapanasati is the meditation taught by Buddha, because he said there are many types of meditation. And I said, no, Buddha mainly taught one kind of meditation. He said this kind of meditation was sufficient. It was a straight path to enlightenment, like he said. The second one I replied with, seems like you are talking out of your ass, because he said that to me. And then, of course, I proceeded to explain to him. Okay, so the first one
reply about Anapanasati now. He said, Buddhism is not limited to the teachings of Shakyamuni, and in any case, the dead do not focus on their breathing, because that's what Anapanasati is focusing on your breathing. Basically, that's it. Observing the breath. So I left this guy alone. Someone replied to him, said, Buddhism is not limited to the teachings of Shakyamuni, and then he said, implying anything outside of Tipitaka counts. Tipitaka is like the official teachings of Buddha, and anything outside of it is not something that Buddha actually said or taught. Then he says that this guy who made the affirmation that Buddhism is not limited to the teachings of Shakyamuni is actually from a sect called Mahayana, and he said that this sect is worthless and these people should go away. Right. So let me see. When I said, seems like you're talking out of your ass, the guy replied with great argument. Nirvana is not absolute nothingness, you mongoloid. You're wrong. End of story. So I replied with this. I never said Nirvana is nothing. I said it is not life, because life is suffering. So he was wrong. And then he's saying, oh, you were wrong. End of story. And I said, I was wrong about what I haven't said, question mark. Seems like you are unable to read simple text and talk. And then he replied, you're right, Nirvana is not life. It is what is more than life. That's another poetic thing that he pulls out of his ass. Your whole argument hinges on what is not life being intrinsically bad, which I've spent like 5 posts explaining why exactly your understanding is flawed and just a knee-jerk reaction to something you have no conception of. To that, I replied, more than life. It can only be life because that is how we define life. From the subject perspective and experience. Firstly, we don't accept the existence of life and death, nothing more in this context. In every sense, anything more than life should contain life, thus should contain suffering. A third position is logically impossible in any binary affirmation. It is either yes or no for any consistent definition. Is it not life when it is death? Is it more than life when it contains life and it is life? Okay, so let's see what he just said, that I'm trying to apply binary logical categories to what is beyond them by definition. So I also made another reply to another post. I'll come back to this one in a moment, just to read this, which I think was a good expression of what I see wrong in Buddhism. So when I said I don't contest at all. I just don't like someone who brings nirvana, aka death. I completely accept that life is suffering. I completely agree that simple pleasure is only the cessation of pain, and desires are painful. Why do you think I was contesting this? I just don't think that a god like character should bring peace instead of a sword. And this guy basically said that answer to my post was that meditation is an emulation of the conditioned state that precedes and is the ground of samsaric existence. That nirvana is the depth of consciousness, but the expanding of consciousness, transcending what is conditioned and impermanent, which is why the enlightened consciousness is compared to an ocean and a sky that non-judgmentally accepts anything, no matter how impure, that is put into it. But you know, if you weren't talking out of your ass. So I made two posts, and the guy replied with one post to 2 different posts. And then to this, I answered, I don't see any relation between my post and that one, this one that I've just read. And then someone said, like, come on, man, the claim you don't like Nirvana being death. And the quote was of a post explaining the real nature of Nirvana. Then I replied with this. I don't see
how that refutes what I have said. It seems just parallel, esoteric bullshit pulled out of his ass. An ocean and a sky that non-judgmentally accepts anything put into it. Put by who and what? If there's something putting things here, this is the essence, not the sky. And if we're putting things, you're choosing. And if you're choosing, you're judging. So the essence judges. He also implies that meditation is an emulation of nirvana, while Buddha himself meditated until he realized life is essentially suffering, which is the first of the Four Noble Truths. This is the first of the Four Noble Truths. This came out of Buddha meditating under that tree, yada yada, we all know about it. The other one's turning off parts of their brains and eating bullshit. Pardon me for sounding rude, that's how I ended my post. Right. So the reply to this was, yo, what is with cooks like you and having such a hard time understanding such simple imagery? The Buddha didn't need to meditate to understand life is suffering. He knew that before he even left his former life to become an ascetic, you dip. And then I replied with this. No, he discovered dukkha, which is the first of the Four Noble Truths, that life is suffering, and all the stuff. He discovered dukkha after years of a privileged life and then asceticism. If he realized dukkha so early, he wouldn't have tried asceticism. He literally realized asceticism was flawed with meditation. Perfect nirvana is impossible for living things. We can only reduce suffering, and this knowledge is what made him enlightened. Not even mentioning his alleged magical powers here. Please understand that I do think dukkha is a noble insight, if not the noble insight. We are busy telling ourselves and each other how happy we are, but it is all an illusion. What I don't agree with is that the godless path towards nirvana and the supposed end of rebirth. Buddhism creates a generation of unmotivated cooks. End of my post. This one yielded 2 replies. That the last one, that more than life, it can only be life because that is how we define life from the subject perspective. That one yielded just 1 reply. So I think I will read this one first, the one with 1 reply. The reply was basically just laughter, and he said, trying to apply binary logical categories to what is beyond them by definition. And I replied, ironically, by saying, just say 2 is 3 and call it a definition then. I'm saying these actions are inconsistent. This definition is an illusion of your ill brain. Refute me properly if I'm wrong. I don't want to laugh or mistreat you at all, so don't be afraid. And he replied with, let's see, contort these already well-defined concepts to fit my rigid logical categories, or you are wrong. Do you really not understand nirvana is what is beyond all dualism, or what? And he laughs. Also, sleep is saying that sleep is neither death nor life. That's incredibly dumb of his part to say this. Sleep is neither death nor life if we define life as experience. That is your third option. It's shit. So he's saying there is no binary logic because sleep is neither death nor life if we define life as experience. Well, sleep is not an experience because we're not talking about dreaming here. When you're sleeping, you're not aware of your experience. So you feel like you have a gap in time in your life. For 8 hours, you were unconscious and you wake up as if you just had fallen asleep like 10 minutes ago. That's how we feel when we wake up without dreaming from a normal 8 hours long sleep. Alright. So he says this, and I reply with somewhat anger that if we define life as experience, sleep is death. Are you mentally impaired? Christ even said that his dead brother Lazarus was sleeping. And then he starts to go way south. Dude, who cares? Intellectualizing this bullshit gets you nowhere. You never understand talking about it. You just want, Either study and make a real effort to try to understand this stuff experientially, or keep shitposting about a system you have no personal experience with on the weekend, I guess. What? About a system you have no personal experience with on the weekend, I guess. I have no experience with this stuff. I intuitively understand what is meant by aggregates, by attachment, by impermanence, by anatman, condition, genesis, nirvana, renunciation, etc. You don't. And then I just start laughing at him. Intellectualization, intellectualizing this bullshit gets you nowhere. That's what he says. And then I say, the religion of reason, everybody. And then he calls me a Western cucks. And then this conversation ends here. Let's go back to that second reply. Right. So that reply was, yo, what is with cuts like you and having such a hard time understanding such simple imagery? The Buddha didn't need to meditate to understand life is suffering. He knew that before he even left his former life to become an ascetic, you did. Then I said, no, he discovered dukkha after years of a privileged life and then asceticism. If he realized dukkha so early, he wouldn't have tried asceticism. Literally realized asceticism was flawed with meditation. Perfect nirvana is impossible for living things. It can only reduce suffering. And this knowledge is what made him enlightened. I'm not even mentioning his alleged magical powers here. Please understand that I do think dukkha is a noble insight, if not the noble insight. We are busy telling ourselves and each other how happy we are, but it isn't all an illusion. What I don't agree with is the godless path towards nirvana and the supposed end of rebirth. Buddhism creates a generation of motivated guys. Okay, so two replies. The first one, you realize the mechanism of dukkha, not the fact of it. He already knew about suffering. What he wanted to understand was its nature and how to end it. Nirvana is beyond God, in that God is a being but still conditioned in that respect, which sounds like absolute bullshit to me. So I replied by simply saying, dukkha is literally the realization that life is suffering. It's not just knowing about suffering. Reread my post. You are the crazy poster from before, aren't you? The usage of the term enlightenment to translate nirvana was popularized in the 19th century due in part to the efforts of Max Muller, who used the term consistently in his translation. Buddha died in pain. He didn't reach nirvana as in the complete end of suffering until his death. So, let me see. The second reply was, when he was quoting me, Buddhism creates a generation of unmotivated cucks. And he says, back in my day, surely meant something that is just lazy. And to that I reply, feel free to show me how Buddhism is productive. And okay, so this was all in one post. I used one post to make two replies, and this post had two replies itself. First one is, mate, you really trying to tell me nirvana is a function of whether or not your body is sick and your pain nerves are firing, and not, what the Buddha is always talking about, which is controlling one's reactions to misfortune and adversity. Laughs. You think the Buddha being sick disqualified him for having achieved nirvana? Nirvana is just body nirvana as it manifests in samsara. I don't know what that means when you say that you can achieve nirvana and at the same time suffer. That doesn't sound like what nirvana is. Nirvana is literally the end of suffering in all its ways. It's not just some psychological suffering. That would be like stoicism. So I think you're like mixing the two, like Buddhism and stoicism. Which stoicism is Roman and Greek, it's not Buddhism at all. Nirvana, okay. So Chaveza replied, he said, Nirvana is controlling one's reaction to misfortune and adversity. And to that I replied, first, and now everyone can see how stupid these internet Buddhists are. The second reply I made to this post was the serious one. Okay, so I asked, is sickness suffering? Is pain suffering? No, yes, yeah, We define nirvana as the end of suffering, my friend. We're talking in these terms, not others. Otherwise, we're not refuting. And more interestingly, otherwise, nirvana has nothing to do with dukkha to you. Anything else? Alright. So he says, you'll never understand talking about it. What? Let me see. How did I quote it? Was popularize and direct. Maybe I'm misquoting someone. Let me see if I find it. Talking about it. Oh yeah, I think I misquoted. I made like one reply to, I think it was the same post I wrote. These are two different posts, and I'm not replying to both, or formally at least. Let me see. Okay, so that one post. All right, dude, who cares intellectualizing this stuff? This bullshit gets you nowhere. You never understand talking about it. That's the one that I'm quoting now. To that I said, when it is meaningless, I would take the words of Buddha over you. I won't really believe in something until I understand it. I'm doing my effort here. In fact, I have done it for years, and it is wrong. Wrong if you care to discuss it properly instead of talking like a Californian hippie. I also have experience with this stuff. I also have intuitively understood stuff. What I am asking is if this is correct, if this is consistent, logical. Do you understand? You have failed to refute me, and now you are giving me the worst bullshit I just can't tolerate. So I also quoted another one. This post was also an answer to no, you dumbass, Nirvana is a function of one state of mind and how pure it is, not whether or not your body is ostensibly suffering. So, alright. So, yeah. That post of mine had two replies. Actually, just one. I'm sorry. It had just one reply. The reply is actually interesting. It's quite longer than the other ones. Suffering is produced by attachment. Attachment can either be desire or aversion. The fact that you think sickness is in and of itself suffering instead of just being suffering because it's one is attached, he can't write properly at all, man. What is this guy saying? The fact that you think sickness is in and of itself suffering instead of just being suffering because is one is attached to his body, his life, averse to pain, etc., tells me that no, you haven't intuitively understood anything. For the vast majority of people, sickness is indeed suffering for precisely this reason. For Buddhists, no, it isn't, because attachment and aversion don't apply to you anymore. I mean, Marlo, I can't believe you've been doing Buddhist for years and having this much trouble joking that the Buddha would have remained detached from the fact of his sickness instead of feeding it with emotion and ego narratives. Sorry, I've been trying to discuss this shit properly, but you have serious trouble understanding very basic doctrinal points. Get good already. So to this, there was a good reply of mine. It is so. In a few words, you're saying that pain is not suffering. What was that so hard to explain? Let's calm down now. Let me ask you a few questions. If someone is in pain, would you rather give him analgesia, let's say through the chemical action of an anesthetic, or try to treat his actual problem? Another one. Let's hypothetically say everyone became Buddhists. Would we ever treat ourselves? Or would we just not suffer in pain until death? Not suffer in pain until death. Why would we even breathe? Breath is regulated by desire for air. Would we never breathe again? Why would we eat, work, and have families? These are all painful desires that Buddha could simply not suffer with. Thus, there's a great contradiction in saying one can feel pain yet not suffer, because these words were once synonymous, and our reaction to them is conscious, and unless you're talking about a pain that doesn't hurt, you are just confused here. Thus, the complete detachment from pain cannot mean anything but the absolute lack of reaction, and a moderate reaction implies a pain and some attachment. Your nirvana is, as you define, thus subjective and incomplete. For every small attachment that you have, leading to a moderate reaction, there is even a small attachment you could pursue, and eventually no reaction would happen. Now, if you mean not reacting whilst feeling pain is nirvana, then certainly you still feel pain, and I would argue that is more important than not reacting. You only breathe because you feel pain. If you don't, what pains can I react to then? Is it not enough that I have the ability to not react instead of actually not reacting to every stimuli? You see where I'm going here. Buddhism is the equivalent of treating health problems with anesthetics, while Christianity is the equivalent of healing them. Right now, we're going to treat the logical problem that I presented you with, your Buddhism. As in, you completely ignore it until you die. So this yielded two replies. First reply was, you are needed. Buddhism does not delude itself with the notion of eternal bliss. There are heavenly realms where beings exist in states of perpetual bliss. However, they also suffer from attachments. They are vain and proud, and themselves impermanent, still subject to desire. One cannot exist and be free from pain and suffering. The Christian conception of the best reward being external existence is flawed. This is not treating anyone. So, to this idiot, I replied with this, I'm talking about Christ healing the sick. I'm not talking about any conception of heaven or anything. I'm simply talking that Christ would approach sick people, suffering people, and he would heal them. He will not make them enlightened or something. I don't think you guys know about this, but Buddha never healed anyone. He never healed the sick. Buddha never healed the sick. Alright. The next reply was this. To that big post of mine, the next reply is, not all attachment is suffering, but all suffering is attachment. Buddhism treats the symptom, Christianity cures the disease. And then he laughs and he says more like the other way around, which I obviously don't understand. You have a very sophomoric and absolutist understanding of Buddhist doctrine. Absolutist, that means if I'm logical, I'm an absolutist, I'm probably a Nazi too, right? Then he goes on, I mean, come on, Buddhism is just about ignoring pain. Laughs. All this tortuosity about what is and isn't suffering and nirvana and blah 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 is a complete antithesis of the enlightened state of mind. Not to mention one can act without being attached to the outcome. Are you kidding me with this shit? And then I replied, laughs, I'm quoting him. Laughs and laughter and laughter. This tortuosity about what is or isn't suffering, nirvana and blah blah blah. And to this I said, Buddhism, the rational religion, everyone. You can see here how rational Buddhists are. At least internet Buddhists are. And then I also replied to what he said that one can act without being attached to the outcome. What is the relation of this and what I said? I asked him. Alright? He said, because you literally said action implies attachment. Alright. Because you literally said action implies attachment. That if one has a moderate reaction to something, he should go lower, which would be a great argument if attachment to outcome isn't the first thing to go on this path. Not everything you don't get is a need. So, to this I reply somewhat a big post. If you're going on this road now, and I completely ignore the pulled out of your ass stuff of not all attachment to suffering, I don't know where he came up with this, how he came up with this. It gets even more confusing. This argument started because I said Buddha died in pain. Therefore, he wasn't in nirvana. That nirvana is not enlightened. When you, or some anon, say that pain is not suffering, and that nirvana is not reacting to pain because pain is not necessarily suffering. Buddha did react to his pain while dying, but my argument went in the direction of pain equals suffering, and I eventually said that Buddhism is not about healing sickness compared to Christianity. I also said that every painful attachment implies a reaction of some value. I didn't mention attachment to outcomes specifically, but simply implied by the attachment, bodily attachment in the case of hunger, breath, sickness, etc. Now you say it is possible to consciously move your arm without wanting to move your arm. This is what you're saying, I asked him, because it literally doesn't make sense. Some part of the outcome must be intended, even if it's just the electrical output of your brain. The output of a system is what the system intends to output. I don't know what you mean by just mean, but I guess you're using it as it means something false that is repeated, because he said not everything you don't get is a mean. So my conclusion so far, you're confusing Buddhism with Stoicism. You're not addressing all my points at all. You are not ashamed of being dumb. You are rhetorical and confused. And finally, there is no reason for you to go on with the rejection of my argument if you can refute it and if you're posting anonymously. You should shut up, get out, and consider what I said like a proper civilized human. F you. That's what I said. Last two words. Then he replied with, if you think I prove in not all attachment suffering shit out of my ass when the Buddha takes pains to distinguish between desire for the wrong things and desire for what is wholesome. You've been practicing Buddhism for years, but you're still hung up on this sophomoric evaluation of all desires inherently bad. When Buddhism is pragmatic, only cares about whether or not a desire leads to a wholesome or unwholesome state. I don't give a fuck what you think it do, mate. Peace. I'm saying every desire is painful. I never said that. He thinks I said that every desire is bad. I never said that. I said that every desire is painful, and that's because life is filled with desires like the desire to breathe and to eat and to have a family and to work. All these things are painful. All desires are painful. That's my affirmation. And he said, he thinks I said, I don't know, this guy's probably mentally ill or something. Yeah. I'm saying every desire is painful. You are hallucinating again, Mr. Rational Meditator. That's what I asked. That's what I said, asking for trouble. It isn't, and neither does the Buddha say that. He says that not every desire is painful. All right. And then out of nowhere, the last post of this thread is all these Christ facts are really so annoying and full of shit. Definitely should feed them to liars like in the olden days. That's so comforting. Comes from a Buddhist, somewhat violent, right? You shouldn't say that if you're a Buddhist. You shouldn't say that Christians should be killed with lions because they use logic and try to make arguments against bullshit fake religions like Buddhism. I never said Buddhists should be killed. I never said Buddhists should be gassed or anything.